Howdy, cowpokes. I'm gonna try to do a video response to this video on my channel, which I posted because I thought it was interesting. And in 48 hours, it's got like 42,000 views and almost 2,000 comments, and I cannot keep up. I'm trying to actually be cool about it and reply to people and stuff, and it's taking hours and hours and hours. It's just too much. So I wanted to kind of address some things here. First of all, you don't need to agree with Charlie Kirk. I don't agree with everything he was about. I'm not Christian. I'm not pro-life. I don't care if people smoke pot, and don't care if gay dudes get married, gay women for that matter. So, you know, my views and his deviate a good bit on some things, but I do agree with him on a lot of stuff. And he was very effective at what he did, engaging young people to sit down and have discussions, not shout louder than the other person, not, I mean, everything was about Jesus and peace and forgiveness and nonviolence, and his whole premise was sitting down and talking. Words. You don't have to like the words. You don't have to agree with the words, but he wanted to have conversations, and he says this countless times because he felt that when people stop talking, doesn't matter if it's you and your boss, if it's you and your wife, or husband, if it's people, if it's communities, if it's countries, when people no longer talk, when communication breaks down, it's very easy to dismiss the other side as not being human. You're not putting a face or a person to the belief or the views or whatever. And when you do that, it becomes easier to justify violence. The guy was all about nonviolence. People had made death threats against him for years. He still showed up every day, knowing at any time what happened at Utah could have happened at any time. People were threatening to do that for the last 7 years, right? So he knew that was a risk, and he still supported the Second Amendment. Now, so many of his quotes, we'll focus on this one primarily, the video that I'm referencing, that I'm responding to, because I just can't keep typing the same thing to 1,000 people anymore. The longer clip, people say, well, it doesn't change the context. The context doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the what. It gives you more insight as to the why he felt that way. There's nuance to conversation. Yes, ultimately, he did physically say the words, I think that it's prudent to keep the Second Amendment even though, you know, there's going to be school shootings. The problem is when you isolate that sentence and you leave it on its own, the reader will interpret that based on their own inner dialogue and their own beliefs and what they've been told to think about this person, and they'll form a conclusion that may or may not be anything close to what he was actually saying. It's lying by omission. But because it still is technically words that he said, it's just not all of them, it's some of them, the person who takes it out of context, they know why they're taking it out of context. They're doing it to create the notion of something, but it gives them plausible deniability to be able to say, well, hey, he did say the words. I didn't lie. I didn't change the words. I just told you what he said. Yeah, but you took what happened before and after and you left this sliver. Let me give you an example. If you, whoever's watching this, if you were to be having a conversation around self-defense, and you might be peaceful, you might be someone who abhors violence, you do everything you can to avoid it, you say, look, I'm a peaceful person, I don't ever want to be in the position to have to use lethal force, it's terrible, I want that on my conscience, I don't want the legal ramifications, I would rather never have to deal with it. But there are predators in our society who prey on others and don't give you a choice sometimes. They come at you and it's do or die. And if I'm sitting there, I will do everything I can to avoid it, but ultimately, if someone comes at me with a weapon or the ability to take my life or my family's life, I think it's okay to kill them in self-defense. Now, if you took that whole statement, most people would listen to that and go, that is a completely rational, normal thing to say. Nothing wrong with that. But if you only took the sentence of, I think it's okay to kill that person, and you left it by itself without that, did I say or did you say those physical 7 or whatever words? Well, yeah. But when you put them in isolation by itself, most people will hear that and go, the fuck, dude? Like, what are you talking about, right? They're gonna ascribe their own meaning and interpretation to it. Whereas if you left it in part of the conversation, you'd go, okay, that makes sense, right? And that's why they take it out of context. That's why they only do the little sound bite. It wasn't by accident that people quoted only a little part of it. When Charlie says things like the quote of, well, if I saw a black pilot, I would question their credentials. He didn't just say about any black pilot. He was talking about specifically an airline who was up there patting themselves on the back and nearly dislocating their arm in the process to say, look how many black pilots we hired. We hired this many black pilots and we have an all-woman team and all these other things. And he gets into the topic of DEI and says, look, for the airline that is talking and bragging about how we hired all these black pilots, it makes you wonder, did you hire them because they were black? Because you're saying and you're making sure you let everybody know that you hired the black ones or the female ones or whatever. So was that your primary concern, or were their qualifications a concern? That is a normal question to go, did you hire the best person for the job? Because when I'm up in an airplane at 30,000 feet, I don't give a damn if they're gay, if they're trans, if they're white, black, Hispanic, Martian lesbian, like who cared? Are you the best person to get me safely on the ground? That's what I want to know. I don't care what color you are. I want the best person for the job. I want merit, not a checkbox so that some liberal working at an airline can pat themselves on the back. Look how good of a person is. I hired black guys. If they're the most qualified, great. But what if they're not? And with DEI and affirmative action and hiring quotas, you have to, by nature, if your primary concern is diversity and checking a box for color or ethnicity or religion or gender or any of those things, then the qualifications are no longer, you can't have both primary. One's going to take priority over the other. And if you're touting your DEI practice as a victory, and that's what we did, was we used DEI, then the qualifications and experience came second. And in things where people's lives are in your hand, it's okay to question, did you hire the best guy or woman? Or did you do the DEI thing to make yourselves look good for good PR? That was the context. That changes everything he said. Did he physically say the words? Yeah. But they mean two very different things, and the conclusion would be very different if you listen to that discussion. Most people would go, all right. Some are going to heartily agree, and some are going to go, well, I can see the point of that. I mean, if I was in an airplane, it would be no consolation as if the guy's unqualified or he's just not as qualified and he makes a mistake or can't handle a malfunction of the plane because he doesn't have the experience, and we plow into the ground. It's no consolation. Well, at least I died, knowing there was a black guy or there's a gay guy in charge or there was an all-woman flight crew. I don't want to crash. That means I want the best person. I want the most qualified, most experienced, the one who won't crack under pressure, and their color and race and gender and all that shit is whatever it is. I don't care. That's what Charlie was saying. But you look in the media and you look at leftists, they ignore that because they believe what they want to believe. And I am convinced that most people have never actually sat down and watched most of it. Now, some have, and they just disagree with whatever he says because they're emotion-based, whereas conservatives tend to be logic-based. We have feelings, but it's logic first often driving the feelings. We feel bad about something because the stats and the results say that it's bad. We feel good about something because the data supports it. People who tend to become liberals are liberals for the opposite reason. They tend to put feelings first. They feel a certain way, and then they try to find cherry-pick stuff to support and validate what they feel to support it. They just do the same thing we do. It's backwards. Now, to be fair, there are instances where the liberal approach, feelings first, facts second, works in a relationship. When your wife says, "Do I look fat in that dress?" What if she does? You of course tell her that she doesn't, and she's beautiful, honey, because you don't want to hurt her feelings. It's not worth being right to hurt the feelings. So you put the feelings first, facts second. Or even if you're arguing about something with, I don't know, money or something that's quantifiable, and you're right, but you just kind of let it go. Or she lets you go because you're spending more money on the car and it's not a good idea, but she knows it makes you happy, so she's, okay, you're right, honey, that sounds like a great idea. She's putting your feelings over hers, or over the facts that says, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. There are plenty of places in the world where putting feelings first, the liberal approach to things, works better. It's like, do you want to be right all the time, but your wife leaves you because you're, you know what I mean? There's a balance in life. Nothing's ever one way or the other all the time. Life doesn't work that way. The world doesn't work that way. You know, the other thing that gets, even with the context on his video, everyone wants to get into it. Well, he's wrong because cars aren't guns. He didn't say they were. He didn't say cars are just like guns. He says, look, guns, if you have guns, you're going to have gun deaths. There's no way around it, right? But overall, he and many of us feel that it's not that something's acceptable and you approve or you like it. You just know that there's an unfortunate reality to life that if you have guns, you're going to have more shootings. If you have pools, you will have more drownings. If you have cars, you will have more car-related deaths. If you have fast food, you will have more coronary and heart disease and diabetes and strokes, high blood pressure. If you have alcohol, you will have more alcohol-related deaths. If you have tobacco, there will be more tobacco-related deaths. Everywhere in society, things that we have, freedoms, actions, services, or products, drugs, pharmaceuticals, it cures this problem, but here's a 7-page list of all the side effects. But we go, well, I'm trying to fix this problem. I'm willing to put up with the constipation or the headaches if it cures my cancer or whatever, right? Everything in life is a cost-benefit analysis. And all he did with the car analogy was just say, look, here's something everybody should be able to relate to. People who don't have guns aren't going to listen to the logic on guns because they don't like guns and they don't want people having guns. So anything you say about guns, it goes in one ear and right out the other. So he says, okay, let's look at cars. 50,000, 45, whatever the number is in any year. It goes up and down, round it off. It's 50,000 deaths a year in cars. Doesn't include all the people who lost limbs, property, the billions in property damage, paralysis, all that. Just talking about deaths alone. Cars kill more people than guns. Remember, most gun deaths aren't gun deaths. I mean, they're deaths, but they're suicides. 67%. When you look at the number of gun deaths, only 1 out of 3 are homicides or murders. Most of them are people that just, you got an old guy with cancer and says, you know what, I'm in pain, euthanasia is not an option, so I'm just going to take myself out. It's horrible. You wish it wouldn't happen. It's still a death by firearm, but it's different than someone picking up a gun and going mowing down kids in a church. I think we could all agree on that. I would hope we could agree on that. So when he says that analogy about cars and guns, he's just saying, look, we all look at cars. Every year, almost 50,000 men, women, and children will die because we want the convenience of being able to live here but work over there. I want to drive to Starbucks. I don't want to have to walk to get groceries. I want the luxury and convenience of my car and air conditioning so I can do the things that I enjoy. We all want that. The result of that is 50,000 people a year, our family members, our friends, strangers, whomever, are going to die so that we all have the right to drive our cars around and be not inconvenienced. We don't want the car deaths. And yeah, cars are intended to be safe. Doesn't matter. The object that is intended to be safe kills more than the thing that's designed to actually kill people, which says either cars are horribly unsafe or guns are actually safer than we thought. How many people die from heart disease because of their eating habits and those are decisions, and the foods that they eat, and processed sugars and all this stuff, tobacco, alcohol, all these things. And saying that someone, well, he's okay with guns, so he's okay and approves of death. No, I'm pro-gun. But I don't think you should be able to do anything you want with a gun to whomever you want. We have limits on what you can do. You can have a gun, you can shoot targets, you can hunt, you can defend yourself if it's justified self-defense, but you can't go rob a liquor store. You can't go out there and mow down kids for no friggin' reason. So just because you say, well, you're pro-gun, you're pro anything that happens with guns, no. I'm pro-car, I'm pro-alcohol. I don't believe in drunk driving. I don't believe in renting a car and using it as a terrorist attack and running a truck through a bunch of people during Christmas or during a parade. The notion that, well, if you approve of guns and then you have blood on your hands, you approve of this, well, that applies to you with a car. That applies to you with pharmaceuticals, people who die of complications, but overall it helps, but doesn't matter. If people die from it and you're approving of it, then you're somehow, a part of that. Apply that to anything else and people reject it. Go, whoa, hold on a minute. But as soon as it's about guns, suddenly all the logic goes out the window. All the analogies, all the things that they do in their daily lives disappear. Because when it's guns, oh, that's different. I have to have my car. I need my car. Well, some of us feel we need guns. Some of us feel that, hey, if my life is on the line, I have an inherent right, whether it's God-given or whether it's just a basic human right, I have a right to defend my life and my family's lives. Our lives are worth me being able to protect them. And a firearm provides for that. Now, whether you want to get into the whole argument of tyranny and what the Second Amendment, that was what the Founding Fathers put it in there because they knew human nature. When you have an unarmed populace, at some point someone comes in and abuses you. Look at every empire in all of human history, different tribes going to war with each other and Native Americans. Every empire that's risen and fallen. In the last 150 years, you had Lenin, Stalin, Ceausescu, the Soviet Union, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Castro, the Sandinistas. You can go down the line of people that were systematically disarmed and then mowed over by their own government. And it was happening all back throughout human history. Our founders were scholars of history. And they knew that if the people don't have a right to defend themselves, at some point someone's going to come in and do some bad shit. So the people need the right, whether it's from other countries or their neighbor, whatever. If they need to defend themselves or their community or their country, you got to give them the means to do so. Now, you hope that they don't have to. You hope that the fact that everyone is armed to the teeth means that no one will mess with you. And it'd be like mutually assured destruction, like they talked about in the movie War Games with nukes, where, the fact that you both have them says you'll probably never have to use them, because there's no way to use it without the other side using them, and then you're both dead. And so everybody kind of rattles their sabers and makes noise, but no one actually pushes the damn launch code. That's what they envisioned. Not nukes, because I'm sure they didn't know about that. But now, whether we have to, none of us thinks we're actually going to have to fight our tyrannical government. And that's a whole argument. People go down the rabbit hole and say, well, that's an invalid argument because, they have tanks. How do we do in Vietnam? Vastly superior firepower, world's reigning superpower against some guys in a jungle. Didn't go our way. How did a bunch of goat herders in the mountains of Afghanistan do against Russian military, the second world superpower, nuclear power in the world at the time? Not so well. The reality of having 85 to 90 million legal gun owners holding 350, 360 million guns and over 2 trillion rounds of ammo by the latest estimates says that we will probably never have to worry about a tyrannical government because no government in their right mind would want to mess with that. Everyone around here, my neighbor's ex-cop, everyone I know around here, my neighbors and friends, own and carry guns. It's a massive percent of the population. We're not out killing people. So don't get stuck on the whole rabbit hole. Well, he's talking about tyranny and government. He's just he's outlining history and why the Founding Fathers felt that it was important. The Founding Fathers didn't put in the Second Amendment and didn't really talk about it in the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers about hunting and personal protection with regards to the Second Amendment. Do you know why? Because that was a well-duh argument. It never occurred to the founders, who considered the right to defend your life as a basic human right everybody should have. Being able to hunt and feed and provide for yourself and family. It didn't occur to them that you would ever need to ask the government for permission to feed yourself or protect yourself. It would have been absurd to even suggest that. If you had mentioned that to Ben Franklin or one of those founders and people that worked on the Constitution to say, hey, do you think we need to put a provision in there so that people, have a right to eat? and hunt and protect themselves, just in general, they would have been like, well, why would we need to say that? Everybody knows that. That's just, duh. Charlie made the case that we look at cars. That cars aren't the same as guns, but go down any of a list of items. All of those have a certain human cost in lives. Most of them way higher than guns. Hold on a second. Jesus Christ. Most of them way higher than guns. And someone always calls in the middle of these things. Call you back. So he's saying the part out loud that we all consciously or subconsciously make. Liberals want everyone, well, get rid of your guns, because it's for the greater good. All right, well, get rid of your car, because your car kills more people than guns. Oh, I'm not getting rid of my car. My car is, I need that for this and that. Okay, well, I feel I need the gun for this and that. Get rid of alcohol. Was it 170,000 people die a year because of alcohol-related illnesses? For every one person murdered by a gun, there's like 6 people killed but with alcohol. We haven't get into heart disease and fast food and eating habits and junk food and those kinds of products that everybody's fine with. Nobody ever wants to get rid of their stuff. They just want the other side to get rid of theirs. And so my argument is, well, if your goal is really saving lives, if it's really about the children, then get serious about why limit it to guns. Do your part. Your thing's killing more people than mine. So, and that was his argument. And then he finished up by saying, look, why don't we have shootings at baseball games and jewelry stores and banks? Because we protect them with people with guns. Well, why would you how do you condone protecting sports ball and jewelry and money, but you won't protect kids? What sense does that make? But we do it every day. That's the point. We do it. Most of us don't want to think about it. Most of us don't want to go, oh yeah, I guess, well, I don't want to do without that. So we just assume, hey, it's just part of owning cars, regardless of what they're intended to do, regardless of the fact that, well, we have laws, around car ownership. We do and we don't. Take an 11-year-old kid. No license. No insurance. No seatbelt. No ABS. 100 miles an hour, higher than any speed limit in the country. Perfectly legal for that kid to do that, rip around, as long as it's on private property. You only get regulated and all the stuff, stipulations and permitting and all that stuff comes into play, insurance requirements and testing. That only comes into play if you want the privilege of driving on a public road, because you don't have a constitutional right anywhere in the Constitution to owning a car or being able to use the vehicle on there. So they can put certain parameters around it because the law allows that. If I have to go and request permission and present a case and take a class, I think classes are a good idea, as did Charlie. Training and safety and all that stuff. But when you make it mandatory, when you have to go to the government to get a permit and make your case to get your right, then it's no longer a right. Imagine if you have to go take a class, pass a psychological test, not have mental illness, get mental health background checks, all this stuff in order to get a gun permit. Liberals go, oh, that's great, that's great. That's because at some point you think it won't affect you. You think that you're going to be one running the show by the time that happens. What if it's J.D. Vance and they've got even more a majority in the Congress and House and stuff like that? We have complete control and we go, well, we're going to reclassify trans as mental health. And so if a trans person applies, especially because so many trans people have been shooting up schools lately, an alarming percent, way higher than their representation as a percentage of society. If we said let's reclassify that and that becomes a disqualifying factor, are you okay with that? Do you still think government deciding who and what can have guns? Liberals only think that that's a good idea because they think they're the ones who will be doing the deciding. The second the other side decides for them who can have them, all hell's gonna break loose. Liberals never think the big picture. That's always, well, what do I can get? Because they just assume, like the nuclear option in the Senate, they're always crying about. That was Harry Reid. They did that so that they could pass things that they didn't have the vote to do. So they came up with the nuclear option so that they could get shit rammed through when there wasn't ample support for it according to the law. They thought it was great. Until the Republicans got the majority, and then they started using it. Then, oh my God, this is unconstitutional. It's your rule. Short-sighted. This is a great rule because we think we'll be calling the shots. And the second they aren't, and their own rule gets used against them, suddenly it's a problem and a constitutional crisis. Charlie Kirk wasn't racist. Having discussions around race are racial. It's a racial discussion. Racist is a very specific set of beliefs that he never exhibited, never said. But in this country, if we hear something about race and it's uncomfortable, like crime statistics for black males and murder rates, they are what they are. The DOJ isn't lying. Was Obama's DOJ, was Biden's DOJ lying when they published the UCR reports? No. These are the numbers. This is what's reported. But if you say it and it makes someone on that side feel bad, well, that's racist. Why? Well, because it deals with race and I don't like it. Is it true? Well, yeah, maybe, but I still don't like it, so it's racist. That's how they think. Charlie didn't say anything racist. Yeah, maybe there's some things he could have worded better, but the intent was never race. He wasn't divisive. He didn't spew hate. People hated what he said. So much so that they killed him for it. He didn't bring hate in. He wasn't divisive. He didn't try to divide. He tried to bring people in. That was his entire business model, was sitting down and handing the microphone, not to the people that agreed with him. He already won them over. He doesn't need to talk to people that are just a bunch of yes men. Here's a microphone. If you disagree, come up and prove me wrong. Have a discussion. Be human. Exchange ideas. That's inclusion, not division. But they don't want that. You know why? Because he was winning people over. The young vote shifted majorly towards the right, helped put Donald Trump over the top. Leftists are like, oh shit, this is dangerous. What if it spreads more? What if it spreads to Latinos? What if it spreads to the black community? What if we lose all those core voting? We'll never be in power again. So they took him out. And now CNN and others are claiming, oh, this guy was MAGA. He was a MAGA shooter. He was a gay dude living with his trans boyfriend who hated conservatives and Christianity. And he wiped out the poster boy for modern conservatism. That's not MAGA. The fact that you could somehow jump through mental gymnastics to try to delude yourself into thinking that. Dude, that's not even a reach. That is so stupid that you would even make that argument. You don't have to agree with Charlie. He didn't expect people to agree. He sought out people who didn't so he could try to win their hearts and minds with a better argument. And instead of sitting down and having that argument and trying to present an even better one to counter him, he had death threats for years. And then they killed him for it. And now you got people saying, well, he got what he deserved. Why? Well, he said things we didn't like. What if I don't like what you say? What if someone else doesn't like what your brother says? Is that the new standard? If your feelings are hurt and you don't like the words they say, murder's now on the table? Really? That's the world you want to live in. Again, you probably think it's fine, and oh yeah, kill more Charlie Kirks, because you know it's your side that's going to be doing most of the killing, so you figure it won't impact you. What if the other side goes, I want in on that action. You want to play by those rules? Let's play by those rules. Oh, whoa, you can't do that. It's just words. I'm not doing that. If it wasn't for double standards, most liberals wouldn't have any standards at all. His argument wasn't that cars are just like guns. They're not. It's an example of how we as a society make decisions despite the cost in human lives because we feel that overall there's a benefit to the rest. Guns are the same way. The only difference is guns are codified into the Constitution, so getting rid of them isn't as easy as you could do with cars or fast food or all these other things. You want to get rid of the Second Amendment, it's called ratification. The founders knew that some things might have to change. That's what living, breathing document means. Over the years, things might need to change. There might be a groundswell of support or something changes in the world that says, we got to rethink this, we got to retool it, we got to make it more applicable to the modern era. It's called ratification. There's a process. They gave you a loophole. They gave you a mechanism that you could trigger to go back and edit, revise, or even get rid of certain parts of the Constitution. Ratification. 2/3 of both houses, then 3/4 of the states, then the president can sign it. They didn't want it to be easy. They didn't want it to be all willy-nilly. Every new person that comes in, oh God, this is what we're doing now, and your rights are going from one extreme to the other, and people are taking them away and giving them back, and all. You can't have a stable country if you never know what you're dealing with, because everybody that comes in kind of just wings it and changes the Constitution to do it their way. So they wanted it to be, look, if you're going to change this, we'll give you the means to do it, but you got to have massive support and appetite for this in order to do it. You got to have the overwhelming majority to do that. And if you do, then here's the way to do it. But they don't want to do that. They want to go all the backdoor loopholes and all this other. We should permit it like car. It's a dumb argument. For you saying that, well, cars aren't the same as guns, and so his analogy was stupid and flawed, but then you say, well, guns should be treated the same as cars, you're doing the same thing. You're making the same dumb argument from the reverse angle. Only yours is dumber because you're ignoring the fact that one is a privilege, one is a constitutional right. Legally, that matters. I don't know what other arguments I can counter to this. I kind of wish I didn't post the other thing, because it was like, I just thought it was interesting. I thought, hey, when you read the quote, even as a conservative, I kind of go, like, I sort of get it, but to me it didn't quite sit right. But when I found the whole video and I go, all right, that makes more sense. He's not saying cars are guns. He's just saying that society allows things with higher body counts than guns, and we ignore it, or we just accept it. Oh, it's going to happen. Every time you get in the wheel, you have the chance of killing somebody. And if you're sitting there texting on your phone, eating a sandwich, you spill something, you run that red light. People do it every day. People make conscious decisions. Very few car accidents are true accidents. You're not just sitting there and a car falls on you. Most car accidents because you're drunk, stoned, distracted, speeding, running from cops, cutting people off, in a hurry, so you just lunge in front of a car, you turn left in front of someone and weren't paying attention, so you T-boned the biker and killed them. Most car accidents are a result of decisions and poor choices and poor judgment. You may not have intended to go out and kill people, but dead's dead. I'm not going to feel better as I bleed out on the pavement because, well, at least it wasn't a gun. It was just a drunk driver that killed my wife and I. Intent doesn't matter to me, results do. We don't need to live in a world where you can be slaughtered and murdered in front of your family on live TV because you hurt someone's feelings, because you brought up a point that that person didn't like, and they didn't really have a good counter argument, so they felt, well, we tried to cancel you, we tried to do this, we tried to get you to not be able to get permits to have the event at the campus. We tried to boycott, that didn't work, so we're just going to blow your head off in front of your family. And for all of you saying, well, I don't approve of that, you know. Well, you're on the side that does. You're on the team that right now has got millions of views and tens of thousands of TikTok and Blue Sky and other videos out there dancing, praising, and calling for more. That's your team. The same team that thinks men can get pregnant, and to say that they can't, well, that's Charlie. He's spreading hate. He's saying men can't have babies. They fucking can't. Women cosplaying as men can have babies. Men can't. Well, that's hate. No, you may hate that I'm saying it, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. You being offended does not mean you're right. You disagreeing doesn't mean you're right. Thinking that men have periods is stupid. That is a laughable premise, and me pointing out the obvious isn't hate. It's just an acknowledgement of science, DNA, biology, physiology, reality. You may wish it was otherwise. You may say, well, it's not polite to say. Okay, I'm being impolite. Anyway, it's really hot in the sun here, and my dome is cooking. I didn't put on any sunscreen. I'm going to go back in and have lunch and ponder this and then upload it. This is my response. I will probably leave comments on, but I can't keep having the same conversations with people who are just too dense to get it. This is one of those situations where the people that actually need to hear it, they're not open to the message anyway. But at least I don't have to type it out every time. And the people that get it, they already get it. They don't need to hear it. But thinking that murder is an appropriate and proportional response to someone saying things you just don't agree with, or that you even were offended by. He hurt my feelings. So, suck it up, Buttercup. Get over it. Life is rough. Get a helmet. I think Dennis Leary said that once. Words are not violence. Shooting people in the head, that's violence. That's you. That's not us. I'll leave you with this. All the right-wing extremism. Here, you killed the poster child for modern conservative in this era. One of the most influential people in the last 50 years on the right side of politics. Where are the cities burning? Where are people being dragged out of their cars and beaten? Where are the autonomous zones? Where are the fires? Where are people attacking police over this? They're not. Your side does that. When gangbangers, drug dealers, and wife beaters are resisting arrest and die in the process, or lunge at a cop with a knife and the cop lights him up and, well, he didn't have a gun, the cop shot him. If he was white, you wouldn't have cared. You cared because he's black, and then cities are burning. Our side is doing what? Holding candlelight vigils and prayer circles? But yeah, we're the violent extreme ones. Yeah, go with that.